7 minutes. 7. That's the number that should haunt every single England supporter from now until the next time their side steps onto a World Cup pitch. Because in the 7th minute of their round of 16 clash, a team ranked 46th in the world, a nation whose entire previous World Cup history amounted to 3 games, 9 goals conceded, and absolutely 0 scored, walked into the party and flipped the table. The Democratic Republic of Congo didn't just score against England, they dominated them. They terrorized them. They brought one of the most expensive squads ever assembled in world football to its knees, and for 75 long, agonizing, extraordinary minutes, the unthinkable was happening in real time. So let's get into it properly, because if you haven't seen this match, you need to understand exactly how close it came. And if you did see it, you need someone to explain why it means everything about where football is right now. Let's set the scene first, because context matters here. England came into this game as genuine tournament favorites. This was not a squad of journeymen hoping for a miracle run. This was Harry Kane, the man chasing history with every single shot he takes. This was Jude Bellingham, 20 years old and already carrying himself like he owns whatever football pitch he stands on. Bukayo Saka, Phil Foden, a squad assembled at a cost that would make most countries blush. Back-to-back European Championship finalists, the 1966 world champions, a nation that has been waiting 60 years to hold that trophy again, and believes, genuinely believes, that this is the year it finally happens. Against them? The DR Congo, a country playing in only their 2nd World Cup ever. Their first appearance came in 1974 when they were still called Zaire, and that tournament ended in 3 defeats, no goals, and a 9-0 annihilation by Yugoslavia that still gets mentioned whenever African football's underdog story comes up. This was supposed to be a formality, a warm-up. England were expected to put on a comfortable performance, cruise into the quarterfinals, and let the real games begin. Nobody told Congo. 7 minutes in, a cross arrives from the left flank. Brian Sapanga, a name almost nobody outside the Congo camp had filed away before this tournament, collects it on the edge of the box. He doesn't hesitate. Low, hard, precisely aimed at the near post. Jordan Pickford, one of the world's better goalkeepers, doesn't get there. 1-0 Congo. A stadium packed with 70,000 people, the overwhelming majority of them in England red and white, goes completely silent. Not the kind of silence that follows a good play by the opposition, the kind of silence that means everyone just processed the same thing simultaneously and nobody knows what to say about it yet. England's players looked at each other, and that look said plenty. Here's what makes this more than just a shock early goal. And here's the part where it gets genuinely difficult to believe. Congo weren't hanging on. They weren't parking the bus, putting 11 men behind the ball and praying. They were playing. They were pressing. They were carving England open in ways that the English press will be discussing for weeks. Yohan Wissa, their talismanic striker who had already scored 3 times in the group stage, got a chance to make it 2-0 from point-blank range. He smashed it against the outside of the post. Inches. Centimeters, actually. That is the margin between England surviving this tournament and England suffering the most humiliating defeat in their modern football history. Congo defender Axel Tuanzebe said it himself afterward, with no false modesty at all. They felt they should have finished England off in that first half. Think about that for a second. A nation ranked 46th in the world, feeling like they let England off the hook. That sentence alone deserves to be repeated until it sinks in. But if there was one player, one single human being who turned a promising performance into an all-time World Cup story, it was a 31-year-old goalkeeper from Le Havre. His name is Lionel Mpassi, and before this tournament, you would have had to be a committed follower of French football's secondary competition to have heard of him. He was born in Metz, France, to Congolese parents, came through the academy at Paris Saint-Germain of all places, and then spent the better part of his career grinding through the lower divisions of French football with a club called Rodez in Ligue 2. A journeyman, an honest professional. The kind of goalkeeper who does the work every week without headlines, without highlights packages on the major channels, without any particular reason to believe that the biggest stage in the world would ever call his name. And then it did. And he answered it in a way that nobody who watched this match will ever forget. England threw 16 shots at him. 7 of those were clear, genuine, high-quality chances. And again, Mpasi said no. He denied Bellingham 3 separate times, blocking close-range headers and clawing away deflected efforts that had already beaten him once. He flung his body in front of a Harry Kane shot at the near post that should have gone in. And the save that had the entire world talking, the one that will be clipped and replayed for years, came right on the stroke of halftime. Kane struck it hard and low. Mpasi threw himself full length and took it somewhere around his hip and upper thigh, a part of his body that has absolutely no business saving professional football shots. His own quote after the game is already legendary. He said he offered his body to science. At one point, Bellingham, having been denied for the 3rd or 4th time, walked over to Mpasi as he lay on the ground clutching the ball, and he hugged him. Not as a provocation, not sarcastically, as genuine, spontaneous recognition that something extraordinary was happening right in front of him. When one of the best midfielders in the world stops mid-match to hug the goalkeeper who just robbed him again, you know you're watching something special. And if you love this kind of story, this kind of complete breakdown of a World Cup match and all the drama inside it, subscribe, because this tournament is producing moments like this every single day, and we are not slowing down. Mpasi had already given warning signs before this match. In a group stage loss to Colombia, he had blocked 8 shots. His teammates knew what they had. One of them said simply, "He is phenomenal. He really kept us in the game." But nobody outside the Congo camp could have imagined he would produce a performance of this scale, on this stage, against this opposition. For more than an hour of this match, it genuinely felt like one of the most remarkable upsets in World Cup history was taking shape. Congo, 1-0 up. Their goalkeeper apparently immovable. The tournament favorites rattled, breathless, unable to find the answer. And the backdrop hanging over all of it made the tension even more suffocating. This has been a World Cup that has already eaten giants alive. Germany, 4-time world champions, eliminated. The Netherlands, 3-time finalists, gone. Every big name left in this tournament was aware of what was happening elsewhere. Was England about to join that list? For 75 minutes, it looked entirely possible. And then Harry Kane stood up. Because that is what world-class strikers do. You can press them, frustrate them, deny them for 90 minutes. And all it takes is one moment of clarity and the game changes. Substitute Anthony Gordon, on the pitch precisely because England were desperate, lifted a cross in from the left in the 75th minute. Kane got to it with a downward header. Mpasi got a hand on it, of course he did. But this time, just this once, it wasn't enough. The ball trickled into the bottom corner, 1-1. The dream had a crack in it. The stadium noise shifted. England could sense it. Congo could feel it too. And 11 minutes later, with the clock showing 86, Kane collected a chance inside the box and rifled it into the roof of the net. 2-1, game over. Comeback complete. The fairy tale had its ending, and it was not the one Congo or the rest of the world watching had wanted. Kane finished that match with his 4th and 5th goals of the tournament, taking his World Cup total to 13, a new all-time England record. He is relentless. He is exactly what you want your striker to be when everything depends on him. But even he couldn't stop talking about the man he'd spent 90 minutes failing to beat. He called Mpasi's display incredible. He admitted it genuinely looked like it was going to be one of those days. Thomas Tuchel, England's manager, said much the same, crediting his players for refusing to accept defeat, while acknowledging that the goalkeeper on the other side had been something close to unbeatable. That is the highest possible tribute from the opposition, and it was entirely earned. Congo, go home. But listen to what that sentence actually means when you look at it straight. This was a country whose entire World Cup legacy before this year was 3 losses, 9 goals against, and a 0 in the goals scored column. This tournament, they scored their first World Cup goal ever. They won their first World Cup game ever. They reached the round of 16 for the first time in their history. And then they took England, Harry Kane and all, to the very edge of elimination. Their coach said it simply and correctly. They conceded 2 moments to one of the best players in the world, and that was the difference. Not tactics, not fitness, not heart. 2 moments of individual quality from a man who gets paid to produce exactly those moments. That is no shame. That is the closest possible version of going out with honor. Mpasi himself, in the aftermath, was already looking forward. He said he was filled with pride at how his team represented Congo, that they would rest, and then work harder to make sure they could do things like this again. That is not defeat talking. That is ambition talking. Because this story is bigger than one match. Congo are part of something happening right now in this World Cup that is rewriting what we thought we knew about the gap between football's elite and everyone else. Morocco knocked out the Netherlands. Paraguay sent Germany home. Cape Verde, the smallest nation ever to reach this stage in terms of population, is still alive. The underdogs are not just competing anymore. They are scaring people. They are making the giants genuinely afraid. The era when a draw against an African or South American minnow felt like a comfortable warm-up is over. These teams come prepared. They come organized. They come with belief. And they come with individual talents capable of producing moments that make the entire world stop scrolling and stare at a screen. England survived this one, but they were shaken. Genuinely shaken. By a journeyman keeper from League Two and a group of players who had no business being competitive and were dominant for an hour. Every team left in this tournament just received the same message. There are no easy games anymore. The bracket does not protect you. The payroll does not protect you. The history does not protect you. You earn it every single game. Or the next Lionel Mpasi walks out of nowhere and takes everything from you. So here's the question that matters now. Which giant is next? Which tournament favorite is currently sitting in their hotel room, looking at the draw and quietly terrified of who's coming for them? Let me know what you think down below. And subscribe, because if this World Cup has taught us anything at all, it is that the next extraordinary shock is never more than 7 minutes away.